Hi guys, Billy back, and this time we are going to be looking at a comparison of the MezKO 112 Deadpool with the MezKO 112 Deadpool. It's very simply, I did a video recently on the MezKO Punisher versus the real Punisher, and I'm basically going to do the same here. I'm going to show you all the differences and the change in quality and whether or not it's worth you buying the official or whether the knockoff is acceptable. So here we go, let's have a look and see what we get. Okay, so in terms of packaging, the official is on the right and the knockoff is on the left, and straight away you can see a variant in the colour. You can see that the official has a bit of a bolder, deeper red, and the one on the left is a little bit more faded, slightly more pastel-y. I genuinely think that this is a reoccurrence with a lot of the MezKOs. They probably either go with the cheaper colour or the print process is cheaper, or maybe they just print, you know, 3 or 4 different layers on the official, whereas to save money they might just print 1 or 2 on the KO. Now, as we can see, they both have very similar packaging and design. Only difference I can see on the front there is the Marvel logo in the bottom right hand corner here of the official, and that's mostly because if they try to do it, they get sued to buggery by Disney. Of course, then you've got the same logo on the front. Both spot UV, both quite shiny. I think this has a little bit more shine to it, so this is probably a cheaper processor yet again, but it's not that much of a difference. And again, you got the 112 collective pose, play, display on both the same, except that the dark on here just seems mildly more faded. I can't put that more simply enough. Everything is just a little bit more muted on the KO. Now at the top, you've still got the 112 collective pose, play, display logo in spot UV, same here. If we turn to the sides, we can see there is a comparison. There isn't a lot more in it. Again, you can see that there's a deeper red on this logo here, and it's a bit more faded here. Same with the logos. And they've obviously not gone and put the Mezco Toys logo on there because they'd get probably sued to buggery as well. But that's it for the back. And then here we go. And this is one of the main things that I thought, one of my main criticisms of the packaging on the official is the same on the left, which is that it's slightly more faded red, but you can see that there is, you know, some, I don't know, it looks bad on both. The reds on both mixing all together, it all just seems a little blurry to me, a bit muddy, and it's the same on both, and I can't really have a go at them. The only thing missing off of here is the Mezco Toy logo in the bottom. Still the same print. They've obviously scanned the official one and reprinted it there, and again it's the same on the other side. And on the bottom, you've got, on the official, you've got the Mezco Toy logos again, and on the unofficial one they've gone from mostly everything except for the Mezco Toy logos and Marvel and whatnot, because, you know, lawsuits and whatnot. And then when you open this up, you're going to take this out. That would be the figure in there. I've already taken it out of the box. But everything is the same as you would get with the official one, including the stand at the back. So, you know, if you were to just say to someone said, oh, I've lost this cover here, I've only got this box here, you couldn't fully tell unless you have a look at the box, because the box here, it's a bit thicker. The card is thicker, it's a bit more stable. This one is a little bit slightly more flimsy, but you wouldn't be able to tell that if you didn't have both next to each other. So if somebody said to you, oh, I've lost this outer sleeve, and then they just sent you that, you know, you can't tell straight away from this that it's a KO. But there will be other ways you can tell. Then you've got 112 collective on the side like on the official, and then of course you've got the spot UV Mezco logo on the back there. That's it guys, that's all there is for the actual boxes. Slightly washed out, slightly muted, with a couple of logos removed, but there's not a lot of difference in it. Okay, and everything is here out of the box, displayed in front of you for the most part. I'm just going to go through some of the differences and we'll have a look. Now, the suit, I'm not even sure you can see that. I'm going to pull this forward. In fact, I might have to do some Gonzo style filming, because there is a mild colour variation on the suit. It just seems a little darker here than on here. It's very subtle though. I wouldn't be able to tell you why that is. It could even just be this lighting. But this suit colour is slightly different. But it feels like the same material. It's like they've used the same sort of stretchy lycra Under Armour type stuff, and then they've printed the black on there, and both blacks seem very similar. I think if we come into the actual suit here, we can see on the arm there is a slight separation in pattern. I don't know what that is. There's like an edging all the way around the edge of it there, but I don't think this has it, or it's not as strong. It doesn't seem as obvious. So that's one way you can tell. And there's another way you can tell is via the head sculpts, but we'll get into that in a second. In terms of the suit, the material feels the same, and the stuff they've used to print on, the glossy black, feels the same as well. So I'm not entirely sure what the difference is, but if we come in, I think it's a bit, on the shoulder here, it looks a little bit messier on the edging there than on the edging here. It seems a bit tighter, a bit less scrappy. And on here it's not as clean a line, I think. But there's not a lot on it, to be honest. Okay, in terms of articulation, this actually feels a little bit less tough to bring the arm forward than the official one. But it does have some roll in the shoulder. The arms go all the way up to about there, the same as the official. It's got a double bend in the elbow and actually doesn't feel as restricted. It's got a full swivel in the wrist. It does have some bend in the wrist forward and back, just like the wrist pegs should allow. And there's some same sort of bicep swivel. I think the bodies are very, very similar. Head wise, he can look up very well, look down to his chin very well like the official one, turn left with a full 60-degree turn. There is some ab crunch, same amount of ab crunch, to be honest, although I'm not as afraid to bend this guy forward as I am the official one. So maybe it's just me, but I think this guy might have a little bit more give, or maybe I just haven't loosened the body up on the official so much. Leg wise, comes all the way up to there. Double bend in the knee, goes all the way out. As he comes out, he can do full splits for the most part. And then the ankle swivel. Oh, well, that's just come off, so obviously that's gotten loose. But it looks like it can go straight back on. So there you go. That's one issue that's been sorted. It's this can come off. I'm not sure that can happen in the official, but it happened on mine, on the unofficial one. And then of course you've got some toe ankle pivot, left and right. And there we go. Now, one of the differences between this figure and I think the official is in the joints. There's a bit more give. You could snap that a lot more easy, I think, which is a shame. And the bend in the joint of the leg here tends to go left and right a little bit more. It feels a little bit more flimsy in that joint. So be careful. If you're going to get this guy, be very, very careful not to bend this left or right too hard. And don't pull him by the bottom of the arm here because you're bending this part too. If you're moving the shoulder up, move from the top part of the arm down. Double bend there, there, and then the wrist there. Try not to pull this guy too much because I think those joints are a little weaker. There's also a little bit of a mark around here where I actually had this thigh, these leg holsters. They were up too far on the body and it was bending this harness up that way, so it stuck out really far. So what I had to do was warm it up with a hairdryer and stretch it out a little bit to pull it down the leg so that it went to the same position that's on the official one. But obviously where it was strapped up really tight to the thigh there, it's left a little bit of a mark. Don't know if that will come out, but never mind. I intend to use this guy as an extreme poser for the official head sculpt from Mezco, so I'm not too bothered. If I break this guy, I'd rather break him than the official one there. Okay guys, that was just the articulation. I'm going to go fix the strap on his leg now and then we'll move on to all the extra bits you get with him. Okay, here are the two alternative head sculpts. You can see on the left the KO version is just like a red plastic. There's no real detailing in there. There's no paint. From what I can see, it's quite shiny. And it looks like they've just cast it straight from red plastic and then they've painted the eyes in. And there's some really nice detail in it, but it does lose some of the lining, like around the eye. The lines aren't as strong and prevalent. The lines across the back of the head aren't as strong. You can see he still has the flap at the back, but there's no detail in there. And the ears, you can just about see them, I guess. But there really is like a low amount of paint on there. But the paint that is on there, the eyes itself, are pretty good. There's not a lot of bleed off. There's not a lot of the white bleeding off into the black and that type of thing. But this is the official one. And you can see that there is definitely a lot less shine. It looks like they've actually done a layer of red paint on there to matte it up a little bit so it doesn't look as shiny and plastic. And there's some black wash in there to really highlight the stitching and the detail on the bottom there, the little flap he's got. And the ears even show up a little bit stronger here. And the lining around the eyes is a bit stronger. So it's clear that this is a recast of that. It's not like they got the original molds and redid it. There is a 10% knockdown in quality at least, and there's no point paint really in the red areas. It's just red plastic. Okay, so I've just removed the boxes out of the way because the reds are really blending into the actual suits of these figures quite easily. We're going to take a quick look at the sort of harness and belt and holsters that they both come with. We're going to get really in depth here, and as you can see, there are some differences. And some of those differences are quite obvious. The harness itself is not as weathered, or it's not as clean as the official one on this KO. It comes down, like I said, the holsters were too high up on the legs and these parts were bending in quite a lot. But these bullets they can squeeze in there, but again, it's probably easier to warm it up with a hairdryer. It's a little bit easier on the official one to slot the bullets into place. But as we come down, we can see there is some silver paint on there, but it's not as obvious what part is what in there. I'm trying not to use the same word over and over again, but it's quite hard. And then you can come around, you can see that all the applications of paint on the official makes it very clear what everything is, whereas on the knockoff it's a bit quickly put together and everything slowly merges into each other. And as we come down, we can see the gun holsters. The lines are fairly similar, but I think that the holster on the right is a little bit bigger than the one on the left. So the official is slightly larger than the one on the left. Again, where they do recasting, things start to shrink, and it's very obvious that the holsters have shrank on the KO. And as we come in, we can see the difference in the belts. I said, didn't I? I said in the last video when I was reviewing the official that I'm getting a KO, and I can guarantee you that the paint application on the knockoff will not be anywhere close to as clean as the one on the official, and I was right. That is very slapdash, and we can see the buckles and the belting on there is not as clean. There aren't as, you know, the lines aren't as fresh and separated as they are on the official. Mwah. And if we take a look at the gauntlets, we can see again on the right we've got the official, on the left is the KO. As we come around, there is a little bit more colour, a little bit more silvering on the official, and the notches are more prevalent. And the lines are cleaner, as is the, there's some lines up here, sort of like little stitching. Can't really see that as much on this one. So there's the gauntlets. Then we come down to the boots. Slightly more weathered on the official. They look a little bit more less glossy. It's more glossy on the boots here. And the buckles. This has some real detail in there. You can see the different levels on that buckle. Whereas on here, it's just one big solid silver piece, and there's not the detail that they have here and here. And in the recast they've lost some of the creasing on the bottom there. And the boots, not a lot of difference, and it's shinier on the left and cleaner, whereas a bit more of a matte finish on the right. As we can see on the swords on the KO, there's a slight misshaping just here. Strongly weathered though, still got the notches and the battle damage, but as we can see the buckles are a bit faint, whereas the buckles on the official are a bit more prevalent, stick out more. Studs on the official are larger, whereas they just blobbed on some paint there. And whereas these ones, they're not perfectly even, but they're more even. This one's high, this one's low, and then you got down there, there's more detail on the right than there is the left. Everything just seems a tad bit smaller on the KO, and then you got the studs there. If we come to the back here, you can see how the pouch on the officials, nice and very, very clean. And the one on the left looks like it's had some silver paint splodged on it, and just looks overall far more messy. First and foremost, we're going to have a look at the handguns. On the left is the KO, on the right is the official, and I think you can see straight away that the unofficial has a lot darker handle in the red than the right. It's a bit more thinner. The eye is not as clean as the one on the right, but they're both very similar. But in this one, you can remove the magazine and it has a nice paint application to it with the bullet there. And so far I haven't been able to remove this, so I don't think you can remove that clip. Or magazine, shall I say. Someone was going nuts on Facebook about people saying that these are clips, and they're not clips, they're magazines, they're two different things. So there you go, just for you, they're called a magazine, okay? But there's no moving parts in this one, there's nothing else there, it's just that. If we put them up against each other again, the right one is a little bit round by the handle there. You can see it's cleaner just above the trigger, and on the official it's gone over the line a little bit. So you can tell definitely via that the paint jobs on the MezKO officials are always really good. And then of course you've got the two machine guns. And there isn't a lot of difference in these, to be honest. As we can see, the official on the bottom there has more weathering on the magazine. There isn't much on the KO. The official one, this can slide forward and back. I've tried to slide this forward and back and it feels like it might be able to at some point, but I'm unable to. But there isn't a lot of difference there. You can see in the barrel, the official has got a bit more dry brushing on it than the KO. You can see there is some more scratching on the official one here above the magazine, whereas the unofficial one doesn't have that. So there's the differences, I guess. Let's go to our hand. I'm going to get the same hand for both. I'm not going to show you all of them, because what's the point? Okay, on the right is the official, on the left is the KO version, and you can still see that there is clearly some difference there. On the KO, just red plastic with some black paint on, but it looks as if there is some actual paint, red paint on the official, and then they've put the black on. And the lines, they don't go out the lines as much. And the texture just below the glove, just above the wrist and below the glove here. Texture here and here. You can see that the line is far more prevalent on the official. Everything's more prevalent on the official, clearly. Then we turn them around, see more of the shine on the unofficial, and it's all the same sort of uniformed colour. So those are the difference between the hands. The grenades, on the right is the official, on the left is the KO. There's not a lot in it, but you can see on the right they've actually taken care of putting that white eye on a little bit more cleanly. And the actual grenade pin itself, the metal silver metal grenade pin, is less thick and more finely detailed than the MezKO. Voila, 2 grenades. They're so diddy, I'm trying my best to show them without getting in the way too much. You see the top there on the KO is a little bit smaller. The paint's thinner and it becomes darker because it's thinner, and the line isn't as exacting. And then you have the bottom part there, the gunmetal part, which is, you know, again, what am I going to say? The word I'm going to say? Sloppy. It's more sloppy. That should be word of the week. Sloppy for the MezKO KOs. And then of course we have the stands. I'm not even sure if it's going to show up here, but the KO version is, again, colour wise, it's a little weaker. It's just a tiny bit weaker. It's not as deep and red as the official base. But honestly, if you don't have them standing next to each other, you wouldn't know. You just look at it and think, yep, that looks like the official MezKO base. So they did good there. And then of course you get the action arm, as I like to call it, and it's and it's nice. The joints are tight, moves around very well. The only difference that I can honestly see between this and the official one is that this one has a few bubbles in the stem that the official one doesn't. But that's about it, really. And then of course we have the 2 swords, and you can clearly see that the recast is just a tiny bit shorter than the real one, which is on the bottom. But they're both pretty nice looking. But there is a slight more etching, a bit more notching on the official one than the fake. We come down, we can see there's definitely, again, some more battle damage. And there is a slight crook in this sword. It's very subtle, but it is there. And of course we've got that painted handles here. They're a lot more nicer on the official. And then of course there's strong bleed off on the unofficial version to the real version, which is almost flawless really in its paint application. But they both fit really nicely back into their sheaths with no real issue. I've just noticed a flaw that I hadn't noticed before in the KO version. The scabbard is a little bit separated up at the top here. Compared to the official one, you can see there's no separation. I did not notice that before. I've just seen that, so whew, glad I found that before I actually finished the video. Okay guys, that's about it. In terms of articulation, the MezKO has the same amount as the official. The suit looks really good. I can't really separate them too much. You couldn't really tell just by the suit if this was a KO or not. But it's really things like the belt and the paint applications in the head that you could actually tell whether or not that this is a KO. As we can see, one of the real differences is in the harness application and belt. The harness on the KO, it's a little bit more stretched and it doesn't pull in as much and fit to the body as well as the official one. Also, the holsters are a little bit smaller, but the guns again are a little bit smaller, but they don't fit in as well as they do with the official. You've got the shoulder holsters that hold the grenades, and that is a little bit tighter. You've got to warm it up a little bit to put the grenades in properly. And we also have a little bit of less dry brushing on the gauntlets and the boots. Can't tell much of a difference between the machine guns. The grenades, again, everything just on a MezKO, official MezKO figure, is just a little tighter. Everything's brought in, nothing is left to the imagination. There's no paintwork missing somewhere, and there's none that overrun the lines too much. And I think when you look at something like the knockoff, you are getting an inferior product. How much of an inferior product? I'd say between these two Deadpools, you're getting probably a 25% reduction in quality. And that's because of the head sculpts not getting enough paintwork applied to them. Plus the loose paint application on the harness and the belt and the gloves, all of it together, you lose about 25%. Now, what I got this for is because I want to pose the second head sculpt of the official Mezco on there. And also, I will feel more comfortable putting that in extreme poses as opposed to the official one, just because of the money I paid for the official one. So, should you buy this and replace it for your official Mezco? Definitely not. If you've got the official Mezco, you have the best one out there. And this should not replace it at all. However, if you want to use that body to display the second head sculpt and have him in some more extreme poses, this is perfect, because if you break it, you're not going to feel too bad. So it's definitely a great secondary body to display the second head sculpt and put him in some extreme poses, because he does have the posability of the original. But honestly guys, always go with the official product first. Mezco are the ones that did all the work. They're the ones that put all the time into research and get the right fabrics and colors and weaponry and, you know, expressions in the head and everything. So just go with those guys first, and if you need a secondary one, have a look at the MezKO. But I don't think, in all honesty, it can replace or should replace the official version. Okay guys, that's it for now. I did a quick comparison between the two. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and do me a favour, if you could just get the fuck out of my cave, I'm going to go play with my Deadpools. Bye bye.